Here we have what they called Hot Shots Golf in North America, but it was also called Mina no Golf in Japan for the Japanese release. And our friends in South America and Europe would recognize this as the title Everybody's Golf, released in 1997. And I picked it up for a couple bucks, I think $2. So let's give it a try. Now, I must say, I am a fan of video golf games, and I have played many different kinds. I used to be partial to the arcade cabinet version of Golden Tee with the trackball. That's a lot of fun, especially in a bar with a couple of beers in you. And I'm also a fan of the home console versions of the Tiger Woods series. And this kind of falls somewhere between Golden Tee and Tiger Woods, I felt. The Tiger Woods series really does try to be as much of a golf simulator as possible, especially with the later versions, the '08 and '09 versions of Tiger Woods. They really tried to make the game as close to the real thing as you can, but still be a video game. And while there are a few elements of realism in the Golden Tee series, for the most part, it's pretty fantastical courses. They're pretty imaginative, and it's not very accurate as far as the real golf experience. But it sure is a lot of fun to have 4 or 5 beers in you and wail away on that trackball. That definitely is a good time. Of the 2 modes of Hot Shots Golf that caught my eye, there were the Versus mode, which is where you play a computer opponent, and that's how you unlock the other golfers. I have only unlocked 1 golfer so far as of this review. And the other mode is the Tournament mode, which caught my eye, and that's how you unlock the different courses. Right out of the package, this game only has 1 course and 2 golfer options unlocked, and you have to play the game a bit to actually unlock the rest of the game, which is kind of interesting. And the course you're looking at right now is the second course in the game. The first one you unlock, and it's called the Hawaiian course. Now let's talk briefly about gameplay here. If you play Tiger Woods, or the Tiger Woods series, you might be familiar with what they call the 3-click swing, and that's more or less how you swing in this game. There's a power bar. You click your X button to initiate the swing, and when you get to the your predetermined point where you want to stop your power, whether you want full power or partial power, you click your X button again, and then the meter drops down, and there's a little red zone that you want to get in on your 3rd click, otherwise you'll shank the ball. And when you shank the ball, your player curses and the ball doesn't go very far, much like how I looked on the golf course in real golf. And if you're unfamiliar with golf video games, this may be like an overwhelming amount of information displayed on the screen, but you become pretty familiar with it pretty quickly. It all tells you a little bit about what's going on. There's the wind in the upper right-hand corner, and what I like about the Hot Shots game here is that when you're on the tee, it just shows you the direction of the wind, but it has a question mark instead of a number. And that's a little more realistic. It's a little more of a golf simulator there, because you can't actually, when you're on the real golf course, you can't exactly tell just by standing there how fast the wind is blowing. You have to get a feel for it. So that's a kind of a nice feature in this game. Aside from the wind, though, we have your ball lie. That's the bottom right. And it tells you, depending on where you hit the ball, whether it's on the fairway or the rough or in the sand, and you're going to get a certain percentage of a shot. That percentage determines how far the ball goes. So if you get full power on a 60% lie, the ball's only going to travel 60% of its normal distance, and so on. Right now you're looking at the putting screen, and there's a default grid that kind of shows you visually the slope of the green in relation to you and the hole. There's a couple of different modes you can cycle through. One of them has these dowel rods that are supposed to help you see the slope better, but I think it's not very effective. And there's another version if you want a little more challenge, where it takes the grid off totally. And one of the nice things I like about video golf as well as real golf is that it's turn-based. So you take a turn, then your opponent takes a turn, and so on and so forth. And while your opponent's going, it gives you a chance to do things like refill your beverage, light up a cigarette, get a bite to eat. It's a very relaxing game. Oh, and this game's not shy about telling you suck, in case you haven't noticed. Now, a round of Hot Shots Golf is a rather involved process. It's quite an ordeal. It's an hour long for 18 holes with 2 players. So it's quite a time commitment. It does give you the option to save the game and pick it up later after the 9th hole, which is a nice option. You can do 9 holes in about a half hour or so, give or take a few minutes. So I condensed my 18-hole game to just a few samples so you can get an idea of the look of the game and the feel of the game. But putting up an entire 18 holes would just be way too long. Nobody would watch it. No one would really care. So you're just seeing some highlights. And here we have me putting in a rather tense situation. Pardon my French, but you might find yourself cursing quite a bit yourself if you have a couple shots like that. One other thing I'd like to note about the gameplay, if you look at the ball on the bottom right hand side where it says 98, 100%, there's a black dot in the middle, and that's your default position where your club face will strike the ball. You can alter that by moving the control pad on the PS controller to different directions in your backswing and holding it there. But it's a little complicated and it's a little tricky to get used to doing. Like I just hit the ball on the bottom end of the ball with the club face, which will impart a higher trajectory and a little bit of backspin on the ball. But you could do the same with slicing and hooking intentionally, or putting topspin on the ball to lower the trajectory and give it some forward roll. It's a pretty nice little touch. I don't think it's the first game on a home console to do things like that, but it does work well in this game. Now, some of the bad points. I left the music on the game so you could hear it, but it's pretty bad. The first course was worse than this. This at least gave you a little bit of a Hawaiian theme to it. The first course music, it sounded like Phantasy Star Universe music or something. And it was pretty annoying to listen to. And also you find with the gameplay, when you're trying to fine-tune your aim, it's very difficult to just give it a little touch one way or the other. You'll find yourself going back and forth, trying to get just the right spot. And it's difficult or impossible sometimes to just move it slightly to the left or slightly to the right. Oh, and it should be noted that when you're playing the verse mode, it's a match play type game style. So you're playing only on the hole itself. So if you have a total golf meltdown on one hole, it doesn't affect your game overall like it would in stroke play. The tournament mode, however, is stroke play. So if you have a total golf meltdown in that mode, then you're totally And I won this round of match play, so I unlocked Sam because I played against him. And that's how you unlock other golfers, by playing against them in the verse mode. Now this game does support up to 4 players, but you need to purchase the game tap to connect 4 controllers to your PlayStation. So that's kind of a drawback. And there is no online game modes because there was no online gaming with the PlayStation. That didn't happen until a few years later. So if you're a fan of golf games, I'd definitely pick this one up. You can get it for pretty cheap, and it's a good time. I'm your host, Dommy, for Classic Games Revisited. Until next time.